So we are waiting for more participants to enter. Please stay with us. We are just about to start. Maximum in 1 minute we start. Okay, so it seems that we can start already, that most of the panelists are already engaged. So, ladies and gentlemen, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are on the globe. Welcome to the first day of the webinar, Latin American Startup Days in the Czech Republic, Connecting Innovation Worldwide. We are very happy to have you here. Let me tell you that this is the biggest startup event between the Czech Republic and Latin American countries online so far. We have over 100 participants. Sometimes some of them will be coming during the session, and from the Caribbean as well. So if I say Latin America, I mean also the Caribbean, I'm sorry. My name is Adriana Dergam. I'm the Honorary Consul of Uruguay in the Czech Republic, and I will have the honor to walk you through these 3 hours. If you have an idea or you have already an existing startup company and you are thinking about where to further develop it, how to start to conquer Europe, this webinar is for you. And during these 2 days, you will have the opportunity to discover the Czech startup environment, to get to know the right people, and to focus on selected sectors and opportunities. We will try to help you to discover all the Czech ecosystem and to discover a place that is just in the center of Europe between West and East and has skilled, talented, and competitive talents and workforce. So this event is a joint effort of many partners, not just me, of course, the leading role being of the Ministry of Industry and Transport of the Czech Republic, of the agency CzechInvest and the Honorary Consulate of Uruguay, and with the valuable contribution of the Embassy of Argentina in Prague, of the Uruguayan German Chamber of Commerce, the Uruguayan IT Chamber, and Fundación Da Vinci in Uruguay as well. And of course, you are here thanks also to the support of the representation offices of different Latin American countries and Czech institutions. So many thanks to all who made possible, and mainly to one person that has been supporting and inspiring the recent events between Latin America and the Czech Republic, and thanks to whom and her teams, Latin America is much more visible in the Czech Republic. So let me welcome and pass the word to the Czech Deputy Minister of Industry and Trade for European Union and Foreign Trade, Ms. Martina Tauberová. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Adriana, for this introductory remark.
I think you are muted.
Can you hear me now?
I still can't hear you. I don't know if others can hear you. I still can't hear you.
Can you hear me now? Well, checking the connections now, whether it's better. Because my speaker is mute,
okay, good.
Unmuted. Can you hear me now? Is it okay? Do you hear me? Just indicate once again.
Okay,
you hear
so
me.
the others can hear you, so please continue.
Okay, good. But you cannot hear me, Adriana, yourself. No, obviously not.
Well, yes, you can start. Even if I don't hear you, it seems that the others hear you. Yes.
Okay, I apologize for these technical inconveniences. Normally it functions, so I'll hope that that really all participants can hear me well. I would like to thank Adriana for the opening remarks and also for giving me the opportunity to address you shortly at the beginning of this very interesting event focused on startups. And having the chance to support the interconnections and enhancing the mutual cooperation of Latin American and Czech startup community. I would like to welcome you all at the beginning of this 2 days event. on behalf of the Ministry of Industry and Trade, and my sincere thanks to Adriana and to Honorary Consulate of Uruguay in Prague, as well as our agency CzechInvest and Embassy of Argentina in the Czech Republic, and also other partners for making this event happen, and for having the particular focus on the startup community and agenda. The startups and the spin-offs are among the priorities of the Czech government, and particularly of the Ministry of Industry and Trade of the Czech Republic, including in foreign trade and international cooperation. That is actually why I'm here having the chance to talk to you. There are, in fact, among the 9 pillars of the Czech government's innovation strategy for the next decade, aiming at bringing the Czech Republic among the top innovative leaders in the world. So I think that's basically, that's why we are very much supportive of all these events focusing on enhancing our cooperation in these particular innovative pillars. Latin America, when if I may mention also the territorial aspect, is definitely one of the most promising counterparts we have identified to fulfill our startup objectives. We see a strong entrepreneurial spirit in the region. We very much appreciate that Latin American people are sort of tech savvy, and we see a lot of potential in strengthening ties among our excellent researchers. Furthermore, the pandemic of COVID-19 has confirmed the importance of the emphasis we need to put on innovation and partnerships. It has also taught us that we need to diversify our value chains. We do not want, and it's not wise to focus on only some particular partners. We really need to spread our ties, and we see that a huge potential, particularly in your region, to doing so. We hope that we will be able to emerge as even closer partners and build back better together. Our bilateral ties will also benefit from the free trade agreements with the Latin American region on the EU level. We see the biggest challenge coming out of the modernization of global agreement with Mexico, modernization of the free trade agreement with Chile, and of course the EU-Mercosur association agreement. And we very much hope, therefore, that all these agreements will be concluded soon and open our markets in a mutually beneficial way. Topics of tomorrow's sessions are going to be fintechs, smart cities, agrotech, and human-centered tech. These all are extremely important parts of everyday life, and innovation can make it better, can make it safer and more enjoyable. Therefore, I feel confident that these fields will remain at the forefront of our bilateral dialogue. I hope that you will become enthusiastic about the possible cooperation, and that you will consider the Czech Republic your gateway to Europe. And let me assure you that we are ready to support potential projects and partnerships as it is really in our utmost interest. And therefore, thank you again for giving me the chance to have these introductory remarks to support the 2 days event. And I wish you very successful presentations full of interesting information and inspiration, new ideas. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ms. Tauberova. This was the Deputy Minister of the Ministry of Industry and Transport. Thank you for your support. And I think you have mentioned key ideas in such a short speech. And I would pick up 2 of them, which was innovation and partnership and diversity. And I think you, as companies and institutions, as startups, have thought during this period of COVID that we really need to think in a different way. We need to cooperate in a different way, and also with different regions. So thank you very much. And we will try to make our best to attract Latin American companies to the Czech Republic and make the continents closer. Thank you.
Thank you.
So let me walk you through the program. Ms. Tauberova has mentioned what's ahead of us tomorrow, but let's center on what's our program in the next 2 and something hours. I know that being on a webinar of 3 hours is quite complicated, quite tricky, and each time worse, I mean, in terms of physical. So don't worry, we can't see you. So if you need to grab a coffee, stretch your legs, please feel free, but come back to us, because the program is very interesting. You will see. First, we would like to introduce the startup business environment, and it will be done also through the example of 2 incubators, one of them being very international, 4 years, one of the key ones in Central Europe, another one being the key or one of the keys in the Czech Republic with a wide network of startups and programs. Then we will, because sometimes it's talking about programs, incubators, accelerators, it's all very well, but you want to see the specific, someone who really has gone through it. So we will have also real examples, real startups or today companies sharing their experience with us, and they have something in common with Latin America. And then we will go to the I would say, necessary, but maybe less amusing part, if I can say, and you will agree why, but it's very important. If you don't get these things right, chances are that you won't succeed. And this is visa, legal things, and money. So stay with us till the end. Please mute your microphones. And before we can skip to some housekeeping rules, as always. I think you already know it from other webinars. So please, you are unmuted or try to be muted to avoid interference. If you want Q&As after each speaker or nearly each speaker this first day, we will have a Q&A session for 5 minutes. It means 1-2 questions. If you want, you can ask directly. You have a rising hand there, so there is a function to ask. And if not, you can place your question to the Q&A session. Yes, and please, I would really like to ask you, put your name there and your institution, and then the person you would like to ask. Why? Because if we don't have time today to respond, we will make sure that the person will get your email and your question, and you will get a reply by email. So it's quite interesting also to know where are you from if we are addressing an institution or a startup. So please don't forget to put your name and your institution. Also, if you want to tweet about the event, please use the hashtag LATAM Innovation. And I have also noted some of the addresses of the 4 tweets of the institutions. Not so easy to find them, honestly. So let's go to our first part. Giving you, now, and I hope we have him on, yes, we have him on online already. I would like to introduce Nicola Rafai, the Chief Operation Officer of StartupYard, which has been accelerating deep tech startups from 2011, and not only Czech startups, which is the interesting part. I hope, Nicola, you can join us. And I would like to ask you, before you talk about startup and the acceleration and the opportunities for international startups, because you have a long and wide experience, you have been witnessing the development of the startup ecosystem in the Czech Republic for years. You are a perfect witness and an expert. Please, could you set the scene and give us the taste, what is startup ecosystem in Czech Republic about? Please, Nicola, the floor is yours.
Hello, can you hear me? Finally, great. Adriana, thank you very much for welcome. It's really an honor for me, and when I will be talking to my mom in the evening, I have to tell her that I was in such a great group of people from Czechia and Latam. By the way, I think for the last time I was out of my home 6 weeks ago when we met in person, if you remember. So since that time, you know, it's not a scary time, but let's say that we are looking forward to 2021. Oh, if I can ask you to be able to share my screen, because it's right now it's disabled.
Meanwhile, I will say two things. One is, as a moderator, I'm also a dictator. So if I feel I want to ask something, I will. It's the difference. And the second one, I will ask also all participants and panelists to have what I call the technical resilience. It means, obviously, things go wrong. Presentations don't switch on when they have to run. So, I mean, just keep calm, grab your coffee, and we'll get to the presentation. And this seems to be your presentation. So, Nicola, back to you.
Yeah, okay, thank you. So first of all, let me introduce myself and even my team. I'm an entrepreneur, originated in computer science. This is what I studied a long time ago. Since the time I was founder of like 4 companies. My expertise is in e-commerce, fintech, especially payment systems. And I was the founder of the first co-working space in Prague 10 years ago. Since the time, I'm with StartupYard, and really happy that I have to say that I think this is a proof that Czechia is pretty much international environment, because we have a small team, about seven people, and usually I can say that I'm the only local person in the team, because usually out of those 7 we are from 7 nations or so. So this is like what's a great taste about Prague. By the way, 2 of my mates, Gustavo, who just recently moved to Peru, and Chris from Chile. So this is our connection to Latam as well. By the way, I have to say even something about Prague being empty this time. I think you may know this picture, but usually it's full of thousands of people, Charles Bridge, and this time it looks like this. So you really, this is somehow, you know, this is not the what we typically say about any place in Europe. But at the end, I think it's a great opportunity for most of us. What I want you to remember today, and I think what's crucial for the position of Czechia in Europe, is that this is a hard region to do a business. Definitely, it has many disadvantages, but at the end, you will love this place, definitely. And it doesn't matter if you're in Prague or Brno or Paris or any other place. At the end, this is what you will love. What I want to share with you today, something about Czechia and Europe, about especially the startup ecosystem. My expertise is in technology, so this is what I will focus on. A few findings, what to remember about this environment, and something about StartupYard, what we do and how we do this. So first of all, right now, StartupYard is running operations in about, I think about 15 countries when you see all the dots. So it's almost everywhere in Europe. So this is my experience, and this is, I think, the key message of my speech is that really, what's the key? Even when you're in France, in Italy, in Romania, or any other place, it's very easy to make connections to other country, not to launch your business in that country, but to make connections. This is really easy as it is. And I think this is a great environment for Europe, how to deal with it, even for near future. We like when about Czechs we are defined as golden hands. This is like from history, but right now in my job in IT, so this is what we stress a lot, that when you want to enter this market, you will find so many people who are experienced in IT, and this is not just a buzzword. This is real. We have great people in security, in e-commerce, in many, let's say, like deep technologies. On the other hand, when you want to deal with sales and marketing skills, this is not, let's say, our taste, but it's getting better, definitely. To mention and somehow to be familiar with what I'm talking about, we have great examples from our country about a few unicorns, like companies which we have to stress, and let's say that these are our local heroes we like to talk about and like somehow to be proud of. Like GoodData, Ava, Seznam, Product Board, all companies which work with data, and to me are like among the best in the world. I think most of you or some of you should have Avast on your computers as well. Seznam, which is a rare example when it's such an engine which beats Google, which is I think only in two countries around the world. So somehow, you know, every country is proud of some companies. This is, let's say, our top list we should care about. On the other side, when we talk about this region, I think it's very important to say, and it's not only about Czechia, but every single country in Central and Eastern Europe, most, let's say, big brands, big corporations around the world put their development and service departments and the big teams to this region. Again, I have to stress the technology and service skills of people living in this region. What I have to somehow to stress and even to tell you more is about some, let's say, what are the top reasons why to enter this this region, and maybe even what can be something like disadvantages for you when we talk about this region. So first of all, I already talked about skills and let's say the background of people, which is really great. On the other side, it's about, you know, costs about those people is lower than in most European countries, or in let's say from Paris to UK when we compare, especially with these countries. What's even good is about something like taxation and this stuff. We love to say that it's so easy to live in Prague, Brno, any other place. I know that everyone complains about every morning and the traffic which is in streets, but at the end, it's when you compare to other cities, this is great. On the other side, what I have to say about the disadvantages, and I think it will be highlighted today, is, let's say, moving to Czechia, especially about visa stuff, about immigration, and even about employment, which is really something which you need to deal with. And usually it's better to have an expert and some local guy who help you with this stuff here, because on the other side, comparing to other countries, this is not what startups should care about, and it should be improved. What's getting much more better is maybe it's very interesting. When I talk to any investor around Europe, I would say, except maybe UK, but any other region from Sweden to Romania or from Estonia to Spain, in every country, there are just a small groups or small number of active investors. But I have to say it's getting better. When I remember myself founding the first company in 2000, it was like, you know, 10 people in Prague, and it's all active investors at that time. When I talk about investors this time, there are hundreds of active investors, and every week I receive 1-2 emails with new names. So it's definitely getting better, and it influences a lot how people think about this business. Usually right now, we even when we talk about hiring, it's much more easier to attract people who with long-term corporate experience, let's say specialists in their field, which we need for our companies. Okay, let's move to StartupYard just to tell you a few numbers and let's say our history and how I see what can be attractive for startups and even for a little bit advanced companies which enter this region. What it was a great moment. I think it was at the end of the last week when Deloitte published their annual Fast 50, which is a list of fast-growing companies, not only in Czechia, but all over the region. And we have 2 companies in this selection. What really makes me, let's say, remember every time that being a founder or being an investor in a startup, it's a long-term job. It's not like something that you can get results in just a few months. Both companies which are listed in this annual Fast 50 were founded in 2014. So it's 6 years when they, for the first time, get into this list. And when I look at the others, this is pretty much the same. So when right now being an investor, it's so different to think about I can invest in one company and get some return in a year. It's more or less about to be patient and to be stable to get some return, let's say in 5 to 10 years period. We started in 2011, which is a long time, but since that time we developed pretty much and somehow do differently what we do. We are an accelerator, as you can know, Techstars and all other most highlighted accelerators around the world. But during those 9 years, we learned a lot about how to do this. First of all, not to be just in one country. Right now, we are focusing on Central and Eastern Europe, as you can see, in being like 15 countries around Europe. So simply, we are present at every market, and this is what I like first about above all. Second, that during the time we had to shift our focus, being like an ordinary investor, which likes, let's say, everything, every idea which is catchy can attract our eyes. Right now we focus only on deep tech, which usually I explain are technologies which are hard to explain and hard to copy. This is very, very important stuff. So as I said, this region is about experts in data, in artificial intelligence, and this stuff. So this is what we cover a lot. At the end of this year, we have about 80 companies we already invested in. This is, let's say, our ratio, how we sort our companies. So as you can see, out of those 80 companies, half of them is still active. About 10% were acquired. So it's 8 companies which were acquired by companies like Avast, even and the others. A third is failed. So this is like the common ratio for startups, and the rest is many other reasons why it doesn't work or so. What we do is that we help companies with usually the pretty much first years being in the business. We focus on companies, let's say from, I usually define this -6 months from the incorporation until 2 years from the incorporation. So it's usually from the first idea. Usually this is the thing when we meet an exceptional founder who has some track record and some, let's say, recommendation. up until like 2 years, when there are companies which have stable revenue, and even the team which can which develop something, and they need to do the next step to scale. Usually it's about expansion and even being in different markets with different products. Among our companies, I like to highlight a few of them, like Rosum, which to me, this is still a surprise, because this is a company which started with a name which belongs to Karel Čapek, one of our authors, who defined the term robot. And Rosum, they started just 3 years ago, and right now they're growing, let's say 100% quarterly. And this is something remarkable, because to me, it's still a technology team who just know what their customers want, and simply their clients love what they do. So this is like what usually is my taste, to see developers, usually like guys who knows the code or knows how to design, but at the end, their product is something which really their clients love. Until the end of February this year, we ran our investment process in batches. So it means that we usually selected up to 10 companies and invested into them something like 40,000 euro up to 100. So we are, the first investors usually in these companies. But since COVID came, which is here in Central Europe since the beginning of March, so we completely redefined what we do. Right now we have 3 companies in our investment process, which means that we hold them remotely. We talk to them a couple of times a week and help them to get to first clients, to get the first revenue, and to be able to be investable next year. What I have to say is this is a very, very lovely process for us, because it attracts people all over the world, but we still stay here where our roots. So it means in Central Europe, because when we need to somehow utilize our network, which definitely at the first hand is about being able to open our Rolodex and to make introductions to investors and corporate clients around this region. So this is what we do from the first time, from the first moment, and even about investors, because usually investors in these phases prefer to invest into companies which are just, in 30 minutes driving from their place, not being too far. So usually we attract companies from Prague plus the surrounding countries. Okay, it was my long speech. Right now, Q&A. This is what I care a lot about, because this is my crucial, that I prefer to chat than just to speak to my monitor, because this is not what
yeah, Nicola, it's very hard to speak to the monitor. I know that feeling. So let me ask my colleague Jan if there are questions to you, Nicola, at the chat. And I will please remind you, yes, Jan?
At this time, we don't have any specific question directly to Nicola, so I believe that we can...
I have a question, just one, but meanwhile, I would like to encourage the participants. I mean, in order to make this webinar relevant for you, because we are here for you, and quite a lot of people are here for you, so please make the most of it. It means that if you are interested in something, jump into the conversation, type your questions, and we will really try to answer it. So if you want a tailor-made webinar, we are here. and we are waiting for you to shape the discussion. So before we go to our following panelist, Michal Vesely, one question would be, Nicola, for you. I mean, have you had startups applying from Latin America? Is it something that would be feasible applying for StartupYard? How do you assess the situation? Is it something you would recommend?
Yeah, we have a couple of companies. Usually it's about founders who move to Europe, what I remember from the past. So we have guys from Peru and Argentina, who are co-founders of a few teams. Usually these guys were attracted by the local centers from the big brands. So they moved to work here, and after some time they founded their own companies. So this is what's my experience with moving to Europe. When I see some questions in the chat, challenges of breaking into the Czech market. Okay, first of all, I think it's about having some local knowledge or some local guy who let's say know the rules, because you know it's like in every other market, it's about being a part of the network, which is the most easiest part, what I know. But at the end, I wouldn't say there are something like huge barriers. Yeah, there's some bureaucracy, there's some, you know, stuff which you need to deal with, like the, you know, logistics, with something like about employment and having visas. But at the end, I wouldn't say that it's too much different to other European countries.
Okay, okay. So thank you very much. This is an important information for LATAM startups. And if there are no more questions to you, I would.
There is
yes?
one more. The best way to have an approach to StartupYard is through your website, Nicola.
Yeah, let me just type here. This is the website, my email or Twitter. Every single channel is okay to be got. So I think you should see here. I hope so.
Yeah. So thank you, Nicola. And I will use this occasion just to say that most of the panelists have agreed to send the presentations and to also share their contact details. So don't worry, you don't have to be print screening all the time. You will get the presentations and also the direct contact to the panelists. So be sure you can continue this conversation and follow up this webinar in another occasion. Thank you very much, Nicola. Thank you for your contribution. And now let's move from Prague to another region, because just for foreigners, Czech Republic is integrated of three big parts. One is Czech, like Bohemia. This is a famous part. And then Moravia, maybe you've heard. And the third one, when it goes to Poland, is called Silesia. And now we are going to a innovation center that's impressively famous, and I think not only in the Czech Republic, because it has been helping companies for 16 years, and not only in Moravia, as you will hear. So I would like to welcome Václav Kožený. I would like to welcome Michal Vesely, just skip the Chief Marketing Officer, of SouthMoravian Innovation Center. And we would love to hear more about the center, and if there's something for Latin American participants of this webinar in your center too. Thank you. Over to you.
Buenas tardes a todos los participantes. Voy a hablar en inglés, es mejor.
You know why also, because we have also participants from Brazil, so it would be discriminatory. That's it.
Yeah. And my Portuguese is really poor. Even I was the last year in Pantanal. So yeah, love Brazil as well. I will present a little bit about innovation agency called JIC, Innovation Agency, and also about the region where I am from and what we work for, the SouthMoravia. And I'm sharing screen, I hope. at the beginning, there is a short video about the region, so you know where we are and what I am speaking about. A little bit of the geography of the region, if it works. Hope so. Oh.
Some places claim to be the most advanced, the most connected, the most knowledgeable. But what actually makes a place just perfect? There are always tiny steps behind the big picture. Like when the greatest scientific discoveries start from the smallest things. Yes, it's peas. Our Brno region might not be big, but its ideas are. Bold plans, smart tools, and the drive to break through. There's friendship, if you want to, collegiality when you need it, and closeness with everybody. Long story short, it's like one creative family here. Everyone knows everyone, which is great for sharing knowledge, of course. And the best part is, all these people live in a unique space of 12 universities, top science labs, and modern research centers. The perfect mix for innovative businesses. Because what you do in Brno region stays in, well, the whole world, actually. We are the mecca of electron microscopy. A third of the world uses computer antivirus invented here. Many revolutionary innovations from biotechnology and nanomaterials come from Brno. But how did we manage all these big things? It's because of these little things in life, like feeling safe at all times, which is pretty simple when you live in one of the safest places in the world. In fact, our worst natural disaster is this burning stump. Yep, true story. Besides, Brno region has a tradition of being open to everyone. Easygoing, life-embracing, not so touristy, and with perfect prices, they say. Oh, and did we mention everything here is really, really close? 3 capitals are just around the corner. So that's why we don't need to claim we are the biggest and the best. We know that perfect is what feels just right.
So it was a video presentation, and I should skip to what I wanna present if it works. I have a couple of slides about the region where we are from, and I will also share the brochure later on. It's a kind of data kit, so you can read through. We are the region with a relatively high concentration of researchers in Europe. You see the percentage researchers out of the total number of employed in the region. It's one of the competitive advantage of the region. We have 5 universities here in a region of 1.2 million inhabitants, and the capital city, region capital Brno, of some 400,000 inhabitants. The region is also with a substantial high percentage of the high-tech sector, 5.4%. And what we are proud of, there's a couple of globally successful companies. Most of them are international corporations. You know them, such as IBM or SAP, Honeywell. But 2 of the logos are the local born globally successful companies. One of them is Kiwi.com, which is the flight ticket provider and an operator. And a second of them is Ysoft, which is the print operator. And what is also interesting, we are quite a young region. If you look to the companies, every fifth company here in the region is in IT sector specifically is a startup. And a little bit presentation in short. What is our role? The JIC agency. Our vision is open innovation system that is home to globally successful entrepreneurs and inspires the world. Our founders are regional government, city of Brno, a city government, and 4 universities. And we see it as a good mix of different bodies, and it gives us stability and independent decision making. We are also member of a couple of international organizations network. We are a member of European Business and Innovation Network, Enterprise Europe Network. Also, we are incubation center of the European Space Agency. So that's and through these platforms we mostly work internationally. We as an agency have 3 roles: empowering entrepreneurs, co-create the entrepreneurship innovation ecosystem, and we also care for the development of the innovation agency, innovation strategy, which ambition is to move the region among the most successful second cities in Europe. We are not the capital, but as the second city, we want to be as successful as Tampere, Heidelberg, Eindhoven, Turku. The mentioned regional innovation strategy, I will send the presentation also. There's in some slides, there's a couple of too much text, but we have for 17 years, we have strategy. It's regularly updated. It has a mission, vision. It has key pillars which are important for the innovation and for the set goals to be among the most innovative regions in Europe. And there's a presentation of a couple of outputs of the regional innovation strategy we are proud of. As a Vida Science Center, which mission is to popularize science among the broad public, or the creative hub called KUMS. We have also the Expat Center Brno. There's a picture how we show the innovative ecosystem, where are some public institutions in the very center. There are some scientific institutions around, and there's quite a lot of tech companies, and we see our role as interconnector, creating of network of people, concrete people which know each other in the ecosystem, support each other and help each other to achieve the vision of the region innovation ecosystem. Specifically role of JIC, the core business is empower people and businesses that can change the world. There are some numbers, and it also shows the target group we work with, from students, from secondary schools, university students. We work with people with ideas which can become successful business, and also with small, medium enterprises. It's the pyramid how we usually display the services we provide, from students with ideas, students which career might be they will become entrepreneurs in the future, to small medium enterprises. There are some numbers. Startups incubated, more than 217, turnover of the startups, and issue you see it's growing, and especially in the last years it's growing steeply. Number of jobs created thanks to the work and services we offer. Almost at the end, couple of examples of the successful clients we are the most proud of are these that I've already mentioned: Ysoft and Kiwi. Phonexia, for example, is also fast-growing company working in the field of the voice recognition. Savio, which has a specific navigation indoor system, and the last slide shows that we are creating with a similar innovation agencies in the Czech Republic regional network called Platin CZ. It's inspired by the Swiss model, and we share know-how and experts as well. So that's it. Thank you for attention.
Michal, thank you very much. And while you please pass the rights of administrator to my colleagues, meanwhile, because otherwise, if you finish, Brno is the last presentation everybody will see. I suspect maybe you want this, but please let us continue. We really acknowledge that Brno is amazing. I would like to ask my colleague Jan if there are questions specifically for Michal about the SouthMoravian Innovation Center. Is there any question?
Not at this point.
So it's great. I mean, if you don't have question, and I think you should, I will have one that all of you maybe are thinking, well, at least the colleagues from Latin American startups are thinking, but not saying. Michal, if I come to the Czech Republic and I really, after your video, think, well, Brno is the center of the universe, I want to be there. Or maybe, and you haven't said that, it's 1 hour from Vienna, 1 hour from Bratislava, so it's also an interesting place because of that, it's near to everything. If I decide to have the first branch in Europe, for example, or to found a company there in Brno, how can I get in contact with you? I suppose I would have already a kind of legal entity that is Czech. How can I get in contact? What's in it for me, as I would say?
Our approach is human touch. So we really love to speak with people. So the best way is to take the phone and call and to arrange a meeting. And also our services are most based on the consultations and empowering entrepreneurs by entrepreneurs sharing experiences and stuff like that. So call, write a message, call, arrange a meeting.
And another question, and I will just make sure that you have passed the rights to my colleagues. But
I'm not sure how. So
if you want, Jan, step in and just let us this 1 minute technical break.
Click on my name on the More tab in the list of panelists.
Yeah, I did it.
And there is yes, I believe I'm not the host. And under More there is make a host or something like that.
Yes, done. It should be.
Oh, yes,
okay.
Thank you.
Yes, so, and one last question, I think from me as well. You have mentioned something that I think is very important and we are forgetting generally, because we are like very techy. When we speak about innovation, we think it's about technology all the time. But you have mentioned that in the SouthMoravian Innovation Center, you have opened a Kunst part, a creative art hub. So my question is, what are the expectations of the interaction with the techie part of the SouthMoravian Innovation Center?
Yeah, we for quite a long time, we support creative industries, and we really believe that there is a big added value matching the people from creative industries to other SMEs. recently we are now opening actually the Kunst Creative Hub, which is a kind of innovation center, but specifically focused for these creative industries. We see there is a really future of the world where we will be, where the artificial intelligence is taking over many industries. The creativity, people's creativity will be always necessary, always important.
Great, thank you very much. So this is in a certain way an invitation also to all those startups and institutions that work with creative industries like film, design, architecture. Am I right? Yes, those fields?
Yes, exactly.
Great. So this is a competitive advantage because I think not many Prague institutions know how to work with that. Okay, so if you are more into arts, stay and go to Brno. So if there are no more questions, Michal, thank you very much. And
thank you very much.
If we can do this next meeting in person, we will do it definitely in Brno. Thank you.
Super, thank you.
So dear participants, we have listened to the part, I mean, what's the startup ecosystem about in the Czech Republic? But, you know, theory is one thing. Let's go to the practice and let's go to those who have enjoyed or suffered, you choose the name, this system. And I would like to invite Carlos Granja. Carlos, with you, we will talk about art as well. We stay there, but we will go also to the space a little bit. We will learn a little bit about quantum imagining, which is, I'm really curious about what's that. But first, before I pass you the word, asking you about your experience as a company, as a startup, your challenges, the bumpy road to success, etc. Please clarify, because Carlos Granja is not really a Czech name, okay? So the baton is yours. You have your 10 minutes. Carlos, you have to unmute. We still can't hear you. We can see your presentation, full of scary things for me. But still, you are on mute.
Now you should hear me. Okay.
Wonderful. So, Carlos, the first point was to clarify your name, yeah? Yes. And I go on mute.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for the organizers. Yes, I am original from Colombia, and I was raised in Ecuador, in South America, and I came to Czech Republic many years ago to do my university studies after finishing high school. I actually finished high school in the USA, then I returned home, and I wanted to study and live in Europe and learn special culture and also special language. So Central Europe, still Czechoslovakia, I was in the year 92. And I wanted to study a high technology complex field, nuclear engineering actually. And the university, the Technical University, which is mentioned here, had a nuclear reactor, a particle accelerator, so that's how I made my choice. And this work, so it's actually a many years study. So I am a researcher, also a scientist, also a nuclear engineer. And my PhD was still in basic research, which are these elements which I put here on the right. But we were always in the targeting group here in the university with my director and my other PhD colleagues, developing in close collaboration with CERN and other European laboratories which are mentioned here.
Carlos, I'm sorry to interrupt you because we are getting feedback that the sound is not very good. Could you either get closer to the computer or get a microphone or something? Because our colleagues who are far somewhere in Brazil and Uruguay, Argentina, Colombia, Peru, Cuba can't hear you well, please.
Speak slower. Okay, so I'm originally from Colombia, was raised in Ecuador. From after high school and the university, I studied in Prague at the Czech Technical University, which is the place where these technologies that we are these years, as is mentioned here, using in industry. So this company, it's called Advacam, was founded 7 years ago, first in Prague. Also in that time, a parallel company, parallel doing an element of the technology was also founded in Finland, and after a year or so, we merged. So we cover the whole chain of elements in this technology, as I will be showing you, which is a strong point for us. So we provide members of the MEDIPIS collaboration, which is a science technology project, large scale, many years, almost 20-year development activity, especially in Europe. So we provide them with the instrumentation, with the technology, etc. So we have a pretty strong position in Europe at this in this field of application, in this field of technology. Here on the right, thinking for the audience and for the subject of this event, so I summarize the elements that in our case were important still today for the projects, for the developments, for the products, the applications that we pursue. And so starting with science, and in this case, applied research, as it's called. So this was the starting point. And then close in hands with what's called high technology, hardware, software, in this case, advanced radiation technology, which I put in the title. And then, of course, this concept of technology transfer, which I think we have an example of it, I'm trying here to show. And then together with ideas, innovation, this drive to keep doing things better, measuring and implementing features, which I will show you in these few slides. And then a key element has been also having partners at different level in the university, within Czech Republic, in Europe, also in the USA and in other countries. This has to do also with what we call applications, this is in the title. So our expertise, we are experienced in nuclear physics, in high technology, radiation detectors, together or focus or apply to several industry areas. Actually, it's about 15 different areas, and space is one of them, which is my work. Which is very interesting, very high potential, and also high return economic activities. So here I put just a copy of some of the material from the European Space Agency in terms of economy, that there are some parameters in terms of investment. So the ratio in this broader concept is about 1 to 6 of every euro or dollar invested in this field. On the right, I put some economic number of our company. We are today about 30 people, and I will just show something else later. And these figures here are in thousands of dollars. So to give you just a quick overview, so we develop, as I show here in the bottom left, advanced what we call radiation cameras. So they visualize the detection and the measurement of single particles of ionizing radiation. And I will show some examples. And this has to do with the electronics, with the instruments, with the imagers. So there are various, let's say, levels or types of products or technologies, which actually is a long range. So the group in Finland is the one who is central producing these highly integrated AC chips, which is core technology. And then in Prague, we do pretty much the rest, which is also a lot of work, actually. So the hardware, the instrumentation, the methodology, the physics. So this activity, our business, our work is very close, works very close with the science and with the technology behind. So with elements of nuclear engineering and the applications, we work closely with partners. And here on the right, I just put some collection of customers and contractors, including NASA and the European Space Agency and universities and small and large companies, industry companies. It's a broad spectrum covering various fields of application of research. This is a non-space example of results of activities that we do in the field of radiation imaging, biomedical, also in material science is another one. And this is just an example of what we call high resolution, high sensitivity biomedical images, micro CTs, micro computed tomography scans. of soft tissue objects like mice, and implementation is being done also on patients. So this is the big market where the qualities, the parameters of the radiation cameras, we call them detectors, find a lot of application. They have many advantages. The quality of these images is almost unique in terms of the size, also the cost of the technology. So this is one of the applications. And the one which I devote is in space. So cooperating and working, in my case, directly with the European Space Agency, starting with developments done at the university where this technology started. And the first developments in space were developed, starting with a satellite from ESA on top left, also with these miniaturized cameras on bottom left, which I try to show here, which we supply directly to NASA, first from the institute, from this research center at the university in Prague, and already for some years directly from our company, as is this device here on the right. Also on the Czech satellite, which is now in orbit already for 3 years. It's a small satellite, it's a nano satellite. So it has a main instrument, which is our device from the university, from this technology. So this is the collection of some of the developments. This is an example of how data looks like. This is a radiation map. You don't have to go into details, but maybe I just point out one of the details is this color scale, which we call it factor intensity of radiation. In other words, our instruments, even though they are small, they have the capability to measure very big difference in this case of radiation intensity. So very low amounts of radiation if you want, and also very high, which is not obvious. So the span is say million or tens of millions of orders of magnitude, which is a challenge for other instruments. So there are a number of elements of advantages that make this technology in space, for example, attractive. Yes, so we are implementing these instruments for satellites for different purposes, for primary research, for applied research, etc. And we can discuss some more details. This is an example of what these devices actually enable us and the customers and students and science groups actually to visualize trajectories or the detection of single particles. So this attracts these colorful images here of different particles. And the thing is that a single device, which you see on the photo left, is small. I have also one here, which I can just show it or connected. Serves to detect different radiation components of different energy, different direction. There are several parameters, let's say, in terms of engineering, which they handle to do. So it has this maybe called added value or a set of benefits, which are find meaningful or significant application in several fields. Okay, advancing, just moving on, I will just comment very quickly that within these years, we, as Advacam in our company, we already managed to develop one more startup, which is here in the middle. It's called StartupYard, to take care to devote to one another application in the case of art, as was mentioned at the beginning. So it turns out that a lot of the know-how, the methodology, the instrumentation, the detectors, the experience serves other fields. In this case, to perform high-resolution detailed scans of art paintings and also statues in order to detect fakes or forgeries. And the need for this market was given by also progress in technology by the competitors, but by fake groups. So today, many paintings are being falsified or faked to a high level. So conventional methods are today becoming limited. So there was a need there's a market for advanced methodology to detect forgeries. Also, a second motivation for this, actually, which appeared later, is the possibility to recognize new paintings, actually valuable paintings. I just show in the slide. And there is also another startup company which is related with these robotic systems. So just some information, the presentation is available I just mentioned here, because it's for the purpose of this event, that this second startup received support. It was a competition and we applied for it. It received initial support, very valuable, from the Business Incubation Center in Czech Republic, in Prague, the office of the European Space Agency, which is interested and supports this transfer, how they call it, is spin down of space technologies down to Earth, which is, I think, one of the examples in these activities. So the customers are investors in Great Britain, in these auction halls in London, where they want to have the independent test of the validity of their art paintings. Actually, we have our laboratory for this, with these automatic scans, high resolution large painting scans here in Prague. Here you can see a photo. This is an announced 2 months ago in CERN, this large nuclear physics laboratory in Europe. You can see that it's not just a question of doing precise, in this case, images or tomographies, but also large objects. So there were many challenges from different sites. So we already have a similar laboratory open in London to attend the customers directly in this market in Great Britain. Okay, and then I just put a collection of links. If you have any question or any curiosity, so I put here a collection of there are also some videos, a BBC interview, etc. So my contact is there, also the CEO.
Thank you very much. We will make sure that the participants get this presentation and get the links as well, so they can spend time checking all the different sides of your company and your baby company, your startup about art. I would propose, if you still have 10 minutes, Carlos, please wait, because we will also talk with Mr. Václav Kožený from the other startup, because it might be that some of the questions might be applicable to both of you. So if it's okay for you, I will now introduce the following panelists, and then we will maybe have like 5-10 minutes chat and quick Q&As about startups and the challenges you had and both. So let me introduce Václav Kožený. Thank you very much for the moment, Carlos, and stay with us for the Q&As. So we will go from space and art now to the cities, to smart cities, we hope, with the CEO, founder of a company called Sensority. We will be talking very much about Internet of Things, so different technologies. Carlos, thank you very much. And I would like Václav Kožený, who's also the CEO and sales and marketing manager of the company, to jump in with your presentation, if you can.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me. And I will try to share my screen. Hopefully, I will be able to. Okay, it seems to be working. Can you see the presentation? Yes or no?
Yes, yes.
Yes? Okay. Perfect. So hello, everybody. As was mentioned, I'm from the company Sensority, and we are still a small startup. However, we already have 3 years on the market, but more intensively the last 2 years. Before, it was just a part-time job for us. And what we do is basically we manufacture small connected devices that usually operate on battery for years, and they measure something that we believe is important. So why do we do it? Basically, we do it because we think real-time data matters in this world. And today you can see a lot of pressure towards process optimization. And you really can't do that unless you know the process well and you measure it. So where do we come in? We enable to measure things that were not possible or not economically effective before. I will show you later the cases that we have. Our solution is basically full stack. You can see there one of our devices to measure temperature, and we basically specialize on hardware and firmware development, but we also do the software on top, but that's optional for us. We usually integrate a lot into other companies' systems. So basically the core is the hardware. So what is our existing portfolio? We do have products for temperature measurement, remote temperature measurement. Our customers are a lot in hospitals or food delivery. Usually it's in places where there is not possible to have electricity power, or it's not convenient, and it's not convenient to put cables. We also have solutions. Our most popular solution is for waste management. We have a lot of clients in cities, but also in the companies that actually recollect the waste. Among them, the most successful are the textile waste companies, the companies that with the textile boxes that recollect used textile. And the last one is tracking. We do have tracking for different purposes, for logistics, for industry, but also the one that you see is a very special product, unique, I would say, which is for portable traffic signs. Who are our customers? As I said, it's mainly municipalities, and for the waste, we have also healthcare providers, pharmacies. For food delivery, it's basically the temperature monitoring on the run, and then logistics, manufacturing. Here is the team. You can see me. This is the core team, the founder team. We have around 10 people at this moment, and since this is a Latin American group, I would like to say that we do not export too much to Latin America at the moment. We do have one client in Mexico. The problem is that we are limited by the networks. We use the new networks like NB-IoT, Sigfox, which are networks that are quite slow, but very low power demanding. So our devices can operate and stay connected for years. So we have one client in Mexico, as I said, and generally the market, we first need the operators to set up the network so that our devices can operate there. So the market has been here in Czech Republic. Czech Republic was one of the testing places for this kind of technology, the network. So we were one of the first ones to have it in the world, like 3, 4, or maybe even some of the networks 5 years ago. So that's why a lot of these companies originate here in Czech Republic, similar to us as well. And we basically have to wait until the network providers roll out the network in the specific country. When it comes, but my own experience also dates back. I have lived almost 10 years in Venezuela. So, and I have had my business there as well. I came back in 2016. And so I can maybe make some comparisons about the two countries. When it comes to business, I think it's not all that different, because the experience I've had in South America was a lot about personal contact. Here, Czech Republic is not so much about it, but also very much about it. So it's a little bit less, but it's not like the US, where that doesn't matter that much. And in that, I have also noticed the question you have put before when there was the presentation of Deloitte, what would be the main barriers of entry for the Czech market. So I look at it more like a salesperson than an investor. And since we are also trying to expand from Czech Republic, I would say, if you look at it, it will depend on who is your target market. But the biggest barrier, hands down, will be the Czech language. And if you are trying to sell to municipalities, cities, it will be a huge barrier. If you want to go directly, if you are trying to sell to some big multinational companies, it will be a little barrier, because they always have somebody that speaks English there. But sooner or later, you will need to address this. We are trying to do it in other countries, and when we don't have the skill to enter actually directly, we try to look more for distributors and partners for the local market. So this is how we approach it, and that would be all from me. And if you have any questions, I would be happy to answer them for you. Thank you.
So thanks very much, Václav. And I will ask my colleague Jan, who is keeping an eye on the Q&As, if there are Q&As.
Currently, no questions, but oh, there is one from Mr. Bors concerning the smart city. Do you cooperate with Ms. Zezulkova at Ministry of Regional Development or with Cerdicon?
I know both of them. I know Ms. Zezulkova personally. We don't cooperate with her at the moment directly. And Cerdicon, I know Professor Mařík. I have worked with him in the past. We also sit at the Czech Technical University at the Center of Robotics. So, but I don't have a direct project with Cerdicon at the moment because they are dealing with a little different technologies. They are more in camera and how is it called, pattern recognition and these type of things. So we are a little bit in different field, but I know both of them. Yes.
Thank you. And if there are no more questions, Jan, there are no more questions. I have questions, and I will. No more for the moment.
No more questions.
I think, honestly, our participants are becoming Czechs already, because this is very Czech feature, like we are afraid to ask. I thought that our guests from Latin America would be more brave to ask, but maybe it's also the fact that sometimes in some countries, it's quite an early morning. So we'll wait. But I have a question in a certain way for both of you, Carlos and Václav, which is similar, and it's about Latin America. Václav, you mentioned you have some clients in Mexico. You spent time, quite a couple of years in Venezuela. Carlos, I mean, have you thought from your view of your businesses, partnering companies and institutions in Latin America? Václav, for example, I mean, integrating your solution into a kind of a wider platform that would be offered in different parts of Latin America. In the case of Carlos, for example, when you found the art part, yes, the startup about art, I thought, well, Latin American art, all the things that are being discovered there. Is there something maybe a niche for you that might be interesting? I mean, have you mapped the situation in Latin America that maybe it would be interesting also partnering some other companies there to get into the market? So that would be my question about your thoughts. Let's give first word to Carlos, if you agree, Václav. So you have a 3 minutes break, and just briefly, please, Carlos.
Yes, sure. Yes, I would say, let's say, customers or partners, ideas, let's say, regarding Latin America, maybe at 2 levels. One, the first would be, let's say, direct customers who are interested in or are working in one of the several fields. This has to do with radiation. They are over 10, some bigger, some smaller. This is one thing. So this means universities, sometimes some companies, for example, mining industry. I didn't even mention it, but one large activity we have here, and that would be attractive for Latin America. There are methods, and we are developing a system which is intended to improve the yield of mining ore, mining material in several industries, in several elements of mining. So this is a large activity supported by Horizon 2020, and so this type of activity, this is one. So there are several fields, and so in that situation, I would see the potential situation for an industrial smaller partner in Latin America, which takes this technology, a lot of know-how, methodologies already developed, and then implements it at different level. There are many details. This is one. Another one going to art. For example, in Latin America, Mexico, and in the Andes countries, these old elements from history. So they need to have some sort of scanning non-invasive, non-destructive inspection of, let's say, these historical art elements or objects, which should not destroy the image, for example. This is also an unexplored field to implement, let's say, these compact, small size or different size scanners. So that, these are to give you a couple of examples where I would see some potential cooperation with some local group company in Latin America. Mm-hmm. We are close to the application. Yes, they are close to the customers. We cannot do everything. Yes, so we work in that sense, sort of a franchise, if you like, to extend the technology in that part. No?
Great, Carlos. Thank you very much, because I explain why I am asking. I mean, among our participants, we haven't got just startups or companies. We have also institutions, some technological centers, and also people from academia. So this is a certain moment you can pitch and try to get some partners abroad. So Václav, your thoughts.
Okay.
Thank you, Carlos.
Thank you. And for us, we are now in the phase of expanding abroad. So we have perfected a little bit the model how to actually proceed. And for South America, for sure, we would be looking to enter with partners, not directly, because it would be too difficult to manage it all from Czech Republic. And we are not in the phase to be able to set up our own branches all over the world at the moment. We have started the expansion with countries that are actually closest to us, mostly the German-speaking ones, and we are now looking at the Russian-speaking ones. But we also have a client now in USA. We looked at that market especially because it's very technologically developed, and for strategical reasons we wanted to be in touch there. And also thanks to CzechInvest and its program, where we were able to acquire another client there. But back to the question, for Latin America, we would be interested to enter, and we would be definitely enter with partners. But as I said, it's the limitation now are the networks, but I'm sure they will be slowly rolled out, or they are already being rolled out even there. So if we would have somebody interested in the IoT space, we would be more than willing to enter in a partnership for the local markets.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much. And I think you have mentioned also two important things. You mentioned you are also partnering. And this is something I would like to stress. I mean, we have Czech Republic is neighboring country to Germany and to Austria as well. So Germany is very close, because sometimes Latin American startups is like, it's Germany. Well, 1 hour, 20 minutes maybe, or 2 hours from there, you've got the Czech Republic with talented people and maybe lower costs. And you also mentioned your interest in the Russian market, which is tens of millions of customers as well. So this is something I also find important. In order, just as a continuation of what you said, to your interest in Latin America. So if anyone who has heard something that ticks to you, that might maybe Sensority and Mr. Kožený might be a good partner to talk to, you will have the contact afterwards. So let's move, if we can, to the following section. Thank you very much, Carlos. Thank you very much, Václav. And we will share your contacts with the startups and with the institutions to keep this exchange flowing. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. So we have heard about the ecosystem. We got an overview, the hands-on experience from Czech startups. So let's make a step further. So if you like this, you are thinking, okay, Czech Republic might be a good entering gate to Europe, to the European Union. What should I do? How can I enter? What kind of legal entity I can set up here? So this is the part we are going to start. And I would like to ask my colleague from the CzechInvest company, the state investing company for development, the agency. So Anna, if you are somewhere there, I would like to ask you, if people are interested from Latin America to come here, how can they get to the Czech Republic?
Thank you very much, Adriana. And good morning, everybody that is joining us from Latin America. And good afternoon, everybody that is based here in Europe, as am I. So let me try this. I suppose, and I hope that everybody can see my presentation right now. And my name is Anna Heid, and as Adriana mentioned, I represent the startup support department at CzechInvest. And in the following minutes, I would like to cover the available visa support programs in the Czech Republic for startups that are intending to expand their business here. But first, let me give you a brief introduction into the agency. The CzechInvest is an investment and business development agency of the Czech Republic. The agency was established in 1992, and we are governed by the Ministry of Industry and Trade. We have two main goals. First of them is to attract and to facilitate the foreign direct investment. And we also are trying and working hard towards nourishing the local business environment that is covering startups, SMEs, business infrastructure, investors, and so on. Our headquarters is in Prague, but we also have offices in all of the regions in the Czech Republic, also in Brno, the beautiful Brno, and also in 8 other countries, as you can see on the map. There are also some countries where we are not present, but you can reach us through our partner organization, Czech Trade. So I have already mentioned in the introduction that one of our main goals is to support and nourish local business environment that also covers startups. So let me tell you more about that, specifically how we are trying to support startups through our program, really briefly. So our support is aimed at technological companies, and our main tool to help startups is a project support for startups. The project is realized through 4 key activities, and each of them is designed to address different needs of a company. So we have one that is for companies that are trying to establish their business here in the Czech Republic. We offer them mentorship, we offer them consultancy, some budget for networking, also some legal budget, and to help them with legal stuff. So this is for the companies that want to set their foot here in the Czech Republic, and the rest of them are designed for companies that are already kind of thinking to go abroad. So whether they want to showcase their product or their service at one of the major foreign conferences, or they want to meet with investors, potential clients, potential partners abroad, or if they want to really set up their foot in the market, that activity is realized through our key program, which is called Czech Accelerator, and it allows company to stay 3 months abroad in one of our main destinations. So this was really briefly to what we do. So far, we have already supported 250 Czech companies. And if you want to know more about that, I'm very happy to share my contact information and you can reach me. But now let me get into why I'm here today. So, and that is visa programs. So legally, the visa issue is covered under the Act on the residence of foreign nationals in the Czech Republic. Under the Act, there are several programs that are aiming to help companies to obtain different kind of visa. Companies and employers, employees and employers, that's what I meant. So it is important to note right here that the Czech Republic does not have a special kind of visa for startups, such of those that you might know from Estonia or Singapore or New Zealand. So we don't have that. That being said, there is an option for startup founders to kind of become a part of a program to get a fast track to obtain one of the visas. Either it is a business visa, employee card, or a blue card. And that program is called the Program for Key and Scientific Staff Member. And it is aimed to help companies to employ highly qualified foreign managers, specialists, and researchers in the Czech Republic. So for the purposes of the program, this is the definition of a startup, which says that it is a newly incorporated company developing a special product or service, dealing with particular issues, and probably needs an investment. The definition is very broad and very vague, as you can see. And obviously, or one of the reasons for that is also because the program and specifically the approach to startup founders aims to be more individual. So we don't want to create, or the program didn't want to create a simple table for saying that the startup is something that is not older than 3 years or that has a specific amount of customers or any of that. So this is only so we are more flexible and the approach is more individual to unique startups. So the program is not limited by the country of origin and applies to employees from all the countries outside the European Union. The employees admitted to the program are granted an opportunity to submit their visa application at one of our offices, embassies, or consulates, and the same opportunity is given to their closest family member. All of the applications are assessed by the Ministry of Industry and Trade and also by our agency, CzechInvest. It is important to say that being admitted to the program does not grant you that you will get the visa. It grants you the fast track, the faster process, the faster appointment at one of our embassies or consulates, which doesn't seem like a lot, but believe me, in some of those offices, the waiting list or the waiting time for the appointment can go into, I don't know, 6-7 months from what I heard. But this program, being admitted into this program, grants you an appointment to sort your visa application in under 30 days. Also, even though it does not grant you get the visa, it kind of like for the offices that eventually decides who gets the visa or not, being admitted for the program means that they already know that our agency and the Ministry of Industry and Trade already decided that yes, we want that person. We feel that the business or the startup is gonna help the Czech economy. It really helps. So also each type of the employee or employer has a different requirements to meet in order to qualify for that program. For startups, the main requirement is to have a contract with the startup incubator or accelerator, basically to be part of the incubation or acceleration programs in one of the whitelisted incubators or accelerators in the program, or to have a contract with a technological investor. Another important thing is that all of those companies that are applying already have to have a legal entity and have to be established in the Czech Republic, which in order to meet the first condition, to have a contract with the local technology investor or to be part of an incubator or accelerator, you need to have that legal entity anyways. For the companies that are here already established more than 2 years, there's an extra condition, but I'm not gonna go very, very deep into that. So here there is a list of the incubators and investors that are covered in the program. You can see that what is needed with the application is the incubation contract or the document declaring investment from the selected funds. And those are accepted as a proof. Currently, the program is also undergoing some changes and adjustments. So there might be some changes in a couple months, but I feel like none of those, like all those things that I've just said will most likely stay pretty much the same. So thank you for your attention. I hope I kept my time. In case you need more information, I'm here. I'm ready to answer all of your questions. If not, I'm willing to share the presentation, so you will have all these informations, and you can also contact me anytime.
Thank you very much, Anna. I think you were an example in terms of timekeeping, but not only. But I suppose that people are quite overwhelmed. This is like getting serious. So I just will ask my colleague Jan if there is any question to Anna before we leave her.
Sorry, I forgot to unmute myself. Surprisingly, there are still no questions for Anna, even though that there should be a lot, I think, because you cannot enter the country without asking about these topics.
I think maybe, you know, sometimes what happens in these webinars is that you get so much information, that you start to realize it like a couple of hours afterwards. But that's the good thing. First, that they will have Anna's contact. And secondly, that with most of the viewers, of the participants, we are going to meet tomorrow. So maybe we can somehow redirect the questions. So it's okay. If there are no more questions, let's go to the following topic. Anna, thank you very much. That was Anna Hyde from CzechInvest. An important agency if you want to start a startup adventure here in the Czech Republic. And let's get to the following topic, which is also very important. We were talking about visas. Now we are going to talk about money. So let me introduce Jaroslav Trojan, managing partner and angel investor of the venture capital Nation One. I don't know, Jaroslav, if we have you online somewhere.
Yes.
Yes. And please, I mean, as we say, money first. Please give us an overview. I mean, what's the financial investment panorama in the Czech Republic now? Thank you.
Yeah, sure. I hope we have enough time because there is lots of it. So
you've got 10 minutes. So try to squeeze it into 10 minutes, please.
Thanks a lot for this opportunity. I'm glad that I can finally travel this year to Latin America in this way. My name is Jaroslav Trojan. I'm a managing partner at Nation One VC, which is a Prague-based venture capital company managing a first venture capital fund with the size of 35 million euros. And we specifically focus on Czech startups, or startups with some connection to the Czech Republic. So it can be foreign startup with some staff in the Czech Republic. And we focus on pre-seed and seed investments in the range of, we start at 50,000 euros and we can go up to 1.5 million euro per company. We have our own accelerator program and we started actively investing last July. We have made 15 investments so far in e-commerce, logistics, health, finance, industry 4.0, real estate. So in terms of sectors, we are pretty much agnostic. Yeah, we are one of the active investors here in the Czech Republic. Besides of us, there are a few other typical VC funds like Lighthouse Ventures, for example. And there are more non-typical VC investors. I say non-typical because they don't have the typical venture capital structure. They typically invest from the balance sheet. And we have actually very few active and professional angel investors like Martin Rozhoň or Jiří Hlavenka. And of course, there is lots of individual non-professional investors. I stress non-professional because these are people who have money and they might have appetite to invest, but they typically don't have any experience with that. You know, over the past, I would say 10 years, the overall startup ecosystem has grown significantly. And for sure, there are more opportunities than investors. In terms of the investor sectors, which are the most active in the Czech Republic, I would name e-commerce as number one. You may know that Czechs have the highest consumption of beer per capita, but we also have the highest number of e-shops per capita, which is, you know, one of the highlights of the Czech Republic. So there's quite a lot of investment activity in the e-commerce sector. Then quite a lot of interesting and successful startups have been in the gaming industry, gaming sector. Of course, I have to name IT security as well. Companies like AVG, Avast, Cognitive Security, Whalebone, and other companies. In general, I would say that the investment ranges, if we talk about pre-seed investments, these would be up to 200,000 euros. This is the amount that is the amount that is pretty viable to raise from the Czech investors. When we talk about seed stage, I would raise the bar from 200 to 500,000 euros, and for Series A, I would think that would be from the Czech investors' perspective, that would be anything up to 500,000 euros. But typically, these investments are made as co-investments with other investors, most of the time with investors that are outside of the Czech Republic. Among the highest or largest investments, startup investments originating in the Czech Republic, I can include Social Bakers, which has raised over $30 million, Product Board, $65 million, Kiwi.com, Avast, etc. You might be interested whether Czech investors are eager to invest outside of the Czech Republic. I would say that this is not so common. Czech investors typically invest in the Czech Republic. Some of the later stage investors might be inclined to take a look at foreign investment opportunities, but most of the local investors are investing locally. I have not been measuring my time, so I'm not sure if I'm over or under the time limit. So, Adriana, could you guide me on this?
Yes, you still have a couple of minutes if you want, like 3 minutes. And then we'll go to questions. And as you see, you wanted to travel. I put the Cataratas de Iguazu behind me, so you have the feeling that you are really traveling. Perfect. So yes, please continue.
So in a very nutshell, this is the startup ecosystem. It's improving a lot. We have, besides of the investors, there's more and more investors every year. Czech media has been covering quite nicely the Czech startup ecosystem. Media companies like Forbes.cz, CzechCrunch, and other media houses. So this has been helping even the general public to get their understanding and to become familiar with the Czech startup ecosystem. So these days, when I come to visit my mom, she already knows what startup is about and what is my daily job. So when she asks me, my life is much easier these days than, let's say, 5 years ago. Also, there are co-working spaces. We have an office at VWork. We used to have VWork labs before the Corona crisis, but it was closed because of the COVID. But the co-working is still open and pretty crowded here. And there are other co-working spaces, incubators, accelerators, and of course I cannot forget about CzechInvest, which has been playing a key role in helping to grow the ecosystem and with really useful and effective programs for Czech and not also Czech, but also startups from other countries. I'm also a mentor at CzechInvest for a few of their programs. So it's really helpful programs that they have.
Yeah, Jaroslav, I will maybe stop you here because, and I knew that when you introduce a person with an angel investor, there is always a wave of interest. So I have seen that there are questions for you. So if you don't mind, I would go to the questions because they might clarify also some of the points you wanted to touch. So I would probably ask my colleague Jan if you could somehow summarize what kind of questions are there for Jaroslav.
Yep.
Yes. So we have one question from Boxes, which is the way to approach which is the best way how to approach your organization.
Mm-hmm. The best way is really, if you want to do it easily, then you can reach out or send email to our general email, or you can send email to me personally. My email is basically my first name at nationone.vc. So I'll be happy to take a look at your fundraising presentations and consider investments. But in general, I would say the best way is to find someone who can make the introduction for you. Yeah, if you can find someone who can make the introduction not only to us but other investors, that would be the most effective way.
Thank you. And there's another question. Yes.
Second and last written question is regarding your scope. If you are also supporting social enterprises that are being considered by the person asking more resilient to local economies due to their regional impact.
I wish I could say yes, 100%, but unfortunately that's not our core focus. Even though all of our investments have some social impact, we invested in Dot Glasses, for example, which is a very strong social impact. But we focus on profit, right? So because we have private investors and we want to increase the profits as much as possible. But among the new investors that are active here, maybe you can take a look at Telia Impact Ventures, which is running Impact Venture Fund.
Yeah. If I may say, there's a sectorial meeting tomorrow. I think the social and human tech, and Silke Horak from Telia Ventures, one of the founders, is there. So if there's there's still possibility to join that panel tomorrow.
Silke she's a great person, and I highly recommend her for doing business.
And if there are no more questions, Jan, from our participants, I would have, because it's quite a privilege, Jaroslav, to have you here. I mean, you have seen dozens of startups, many of them good and most of them not so good, maybe. My question would be, I mean, could you give us, because you are an insider and it's a privilege to have you here, some 5 to 10 tips, I mean, how to impress you as an investor? I mean, what the startup should have, what should focus, what will be the selling points, sure, so an investor would get interested? Please, all of you write down, please.
I'll try to make it short. But in general, I think it's about building a relationship, right? So I'm not so much fan of these formal pitches. I like to sit down with entrepreneurs and listen to their vision and their story, and I like to add some value if I can. So with me, I'm not looking for some magical moment to come. I'm looking for people who who can do business, who can build business, and who I can trust, who I can work with, and who are someone who is some startups that have really high potential, right? Because one of our requirements is that we are looking for global or at least regional startups with billion dollar potential. So that's so I don't really have a straight a answer, but for me it's really about building relationship.
Okay, so thank you very much for this recipe. I hope that some of the startups that were listening will follow it. So if there are no more questions, thank you very much. That was Jaroslav Trojan from Nation One. Thank you very much.
Thanks
and we will also stay in touch with you, because I think many of the startups who are interested are going to write you personally.
I hope so.
Thank you very much. And we are approaching the last, bye-bye. And we are approaching the last part, which is not the shortest one, but it's really, really important, because if you don't get the legal things right, you are in a risk that something will go wrong. And also you have heard Anna Hyde from CzechInvest saying that for most of the things you want to do here, you need a legal entity. If you want to go to an incubator, accelerator, Jaroslav just said that Czech investors prefer to invest in local, like based in Czech Republic, startups. So how do you do that? What's the best form to do that? For that, we will have now an expert on legal matters, Lukáš Vajda, attorney at law and managing partner of Sniehotta and Vajda Legal Services. So if you are with us, Lukáš, please try to show up.
Yes, hello, good morning or afternoon, depending on the time zone that you're at. It's very nice to meet all of you. My name is Lukáš Vajda, and I'm an attorney at law. I'm a managing partner of Sniehotta Vajda Legal law firm based here in Prague in the Czech Republic. And among other things, we also provide legal services in English and in Spanish to entities that come from abroad here to the Czech Republic to do business. Now, my 50 to 60 minutes will be divided into 4 basic parts to acquaint you with doing business in the Czech Republic from the legal point of view. First and foremost, we'll talk about corporate law and corporate obligations that you have in case you want to start doing business in the Czech Republic. Then we'll move to the main obligations arising from labor law. So you will learn what is the position of the employer and the employee, and what basic obligations are there for you as a potential employer that you need to fulfill. Then we will move to the third part, which is a basic intellectual property overview and the protection of such in the Czech Republic. And after that, we will finish with a very short overview of taxes and taxation system in the Czech Republic. So let me start with the first part, which is the corporate part. And in the beginning, I would like to explain you what options as foreign entities you have here in the Czech Republic to do business. Let's take a look at the most common business corporations according to the Czech law. And then we'll go through them, and I'll explain you what are their basic advantages and disadvantages, and explain you how for your type of business, which one of them probably would be the most suitable one. Among the most used ones are limited liability company, joint stock company, so-called unlimited partnership, limited partnership, and then there are various, I would say, less used companies that start with European company, European Economic Interest Grouping, Cooperative, and European Cooperative Society.
Lukáš, if I may step in, because it's quite a list to be, focused on the audience. You have outlined several kinds of corporate entities. What type of corporation entity, regarding the fact that most of our participants are startups, you would recommend?
Thank you very much for the question. Well, probably I think that the best company for the startups will be a limited liability company, because it is very easy to set up, and it has lots of advantages that will benefit the companies that are listening to us right now will benefit from. For example, it is a good choice for medium to and small businesses that are seeking personal liability protection and certain sort of flexibility. Why is that true? Because as far as the advantages are concerned, the minimum amount of contribution capital of this company is 1 Czech crown, which in terms of euro is 4 euro cents. So it's basically very easy to and very safe to set such company up. There's a limited liability of a shareholder. In other words, there's no personal liability for the debts of the company after a shareholder fulfills the obligation of the contribution. In other words, once the shareholder pays 1 crown, which equals to 4 euro cents, at least, he or she is not responsible for the debts of the company with his or her personal property, which I think that is very beneficial to companies that are starting in the market, because obviously they don't know and they're getting to know a different market in a different country. And it is very good in order to protect the liability of the new shareholders, or even of the company. That can be also a foreign company, can be a shareholder of a Czech limited liability company. As far as other advantages are concerned, there can be only 1 member. That means either 1 company or 1 natural person that sets up such company. There can be different types of business shares. And as I mentioned before, the liability is limited. I'll talk about it later on, but as far as setting up limited liability company, I think it's very important to stress that it can be a question of few days, 1 to 3 days, and you have a limited liability company set up. This sort of ease of setting up the company is, for me, and I would say for most of you, big advantage. It's flexibility of being set up in different types and different forms of ways is another big advantage. As far as disadvantages are concerned, I would point out 2 biggest disadvantages. First of all, as I mentioned, it is enough for 1 entity, a company or a person, to set up such company. I would not entirely recommend for a company with large number of shareholders to set up a limited liability company. For these people, it would be, or these entities, it would be more beneficial to set up a so-called joint stock company that I'll talk about in a moment. The reason is that basic disagreement between shareholders may stop the operation of the company. Disagreement may lead to severe problems in the operation of the company as such. If we talk about a joint stock company, this company is more suited to a large number of shareholders. That's why to sort out disagreements between shareholders in joint stock companies is a lot easier. So to sum up limited liability company, it's a very good choice for small and medium businesses that are seeking personal liability protection and flexibility. I would not entirely recommend this to large companies, and I'm talking about not the turnover of the company, but more the number of people that would form part of such company. Now let us move to the joint stock company that I was talking about earlier on, which is, I would say, the second most common type of corporation in Czech law. This is a company whose registered capital is divided into a certain number of shares. And the minimum capital here, as we talked before, it was 1 Czech crown, which equals to roughly 4 euro cents. The minimum amount of registered capital here is 2 million Czech crowns, which equals to 80,000 euros. Now, as far as the advantages of the company are concerned, there are different types of business shares that would actually enable different types of shareholders to have different rights. In other words, shareholders of joint stock company can have a right to be informed, have a right to be paid in advance, have a right to decide. So in other words, you have different types of business shares that you can differentiate according to the needs of the shareholders. In other words, you will buy a share that has a preferential right to, for example, for information, and you will be informed preferably when compared to the other shareholders. Or you will have a type of business share that entitles you to the first, or to be the first person when deciding about the basically about the company and its future. So once you have this right and can exercise this, you will be able, once you have this sort of business share, you will be able to exercise your specific right that you are buying once you're buying that specific business share. Another advantage that is the same with the limited liability company is that there can be only one member, one company that actually establishes joint stock company. And as I mentioned before, this form is suitable for a company with a large number of shareholders. As far as liability is concerned, in this type of company, joint stock company, there is no personal liability for the debts of the company. In other words, it's safer for the shareholders to take part in a joint stock company. When compared with the limited liability company, in case the contribution in the limited liability company is small, the liability is also small. As we mentioned before, the shareholder is liable until he or she fulfills its contribution obligation. So if it is 1 Czech crown, until he pays 1 Czech crown. If it's 1,000 Czech crowns, then until he pays 1,000 Czech crowns, and then his personal property is protected. Now, as far as disadvantages of the joint stock company are concerned, we talked about the minimum amount of registered capital that is comparably very high. That is in the amount of 80,000 euros. And in general, joint stock companies are more complex. Their organizational structure and administration is a lot more complex than with limited liability companies. Excuse me. So in general, when compared to these two companies that are the most two common types in Czech law, I would definitely recommend to use limited liability company and to establish limited liability company, as it provides you with a lot more flexibility, basically with the same options of protection as the joint stock company. And I think that for startups, for technological startups that come to a foreign country to start their businesses, the limited liability company is the easiest and best way to start their business. Now, I'll go through the other options of corporations that I outlined in the beginning. However, these in general, I think, would not be as beneficial to you because each of them has some drawbacks, and I'll talk about them now, that will not make them that attractive. First of all, unlimited partnership, which might be beneficial for those that do not want to participate in any contribution obligation, because there is no contribution obligation. But the downside of this is that there is unlimited liability of the members of the unlimited partnership. In other words, the members of this company, the shareholders of this company, are liable to for the debts of the company in the amount of their whole personal property. Another disadvantage that I might find for startups is that there has to be at least 2 members of the company to set it up. In this sort of company, once you start the business, you have to follow with your shareholder for the whole life of the company, because the change of personnel is a reason to terminate the company. In other words,
it's more complicated than marriage, yes?
Yeah. I think that it would depend on the type of marriage, but yeah. No. I agree. I don't think that this is something that I would recommend. However, I think it's important that you have a general outline of the most used companies. And in case you think that some of them might be beneficial for you, that please feel free to ask. Excuse me. Now, let's come to the very last company that I would like to talk about, which is limited partnership, which very easily, because I don't want to bore you with a lot more legal stuff and not practical, is a combination of a limited liability company and unlimited partnership. In other words, there are 2 members of the limited partnership, where one works as a shareholder of a limited liability company. That means basically that the personal liability for the debts of the company is limited, and the other one is a shareholder that comes from the characteristics from the unlimited partnership. That means that their personal property is not protected. As it says in the presentation, there's one member at least of the company that has their liability limited, and the other one that actually does not have any limitation of the liability for their personal property. Now, to sum up these 4 types of companies, I think that for you, the 2 relevant will be limited liability company and joint stock company. And as far as the practical point of view and practical use is concerned, I think that most of you who think about starting a business in the Czech Republic would start with a limited liability company. Now, how is it easy or difficult to set up a company in the Czech Republic? I actually tackled this a few minutes ago. I think that in terms of setting a quick limited liability company, it's a question of days. It also depends, obviously, on the cooperation with someone here in the Czech Republic. So it might depend on the fact if you have someone here in the Czech Republic or you're setting it up from abroad. In case you're setting it up from abroad, it is entirely possible to do so. However, it is good to have a point of contact here that for the setting up of a company should be an attorney at law that you can grant power of attorney to, and the attorney can actually do all these steps for you. Now, the basic part of establishing a company is a so-called memorandum of association that basically establishes the company. The company is established by signing of all founders of the company, which are the future shareholders. This memorandum must include basic information about the company that is required by law. In many cases, you have to visit a notary, and the notary fee would usually not exceed 10,000 Czech crowns, which would equal to 400 euros. A memorandum of association usually must be executed in the form of a notarial deed. That's the reason why you have to visit a notary. But all of these can be processed thanks to a power of attorney by a third person. That can be a third person, or it can be an attorney. It is quite important also to not be confused when establishing the name of the company, because you cannot use any name you want. It is necessary to do a check before, because the name of the company must not be confused with another company that is already existed and must not give a misleading impression. And also, in case the name of the company contains the name of a person, it is necessary to obtain a consent to use the name. Now, regarding the Memorandum of Association, this is a document that is necessary for the joint stock company and limited liability company. A so-called Memorandum of Limited Partnership or Limited Partnership is a document that sets up the other two kinds of companies. Now, the contribution obligation, we've talked about it when we talked about the advantages and disadvantages of the four types of companies. This is another obligation that you have to do, another step you have to take when setting up a company, according to Czech law. We distinguish between monetary contributions and contributions in kind, which in other words mean that monetary contributions is a certain sum of money that is sent to a newly established account of the newly established company. Contributions in kind are contributions as, for example, it can be, I don't know, a car, it can be a building, it can be also a know-how that must be always previously valued by an expert, so that it is clear how high the contribution actually is. And before the company, according to Czech law, is incorporated, all contributions in kind must be fully paid, and at least 30% of the monetary contribution must be paid. This is the second most important document and second most important act that you have to take when establishing a company. Then companies have to obtain a business license. More than likely, the company will need a license to operate its business or other activity. You must submit the application attached with all the required documentation to the so-called trade license office, who will issue an extract from the trade licensing register, usually within a few days. And the administrative fee is normally in the amount of 1,000 Czech crowns, again, 40 euros. But it is important to note that depending on the type of business activity, the company might need a special type of license or a special type of permit. Now, these are all the basic criteria and the basic documents that you need before setting up the company or during the process of establishing the company. And there are quite a few mandatory documents that you might and might not need according to what you actually will do as company. And these are the following. First of all, when you set up a company, you also have to have a seat of the company. For that, you need a fair title for the using of the premises. In other words, it is a document that states that you have either a lease agreement with someone, or that you are an owner of a building, flat, or other space that can be used as a seat of the company. You will also need a written declaration or an affidavit of members of corporate bodies. This is a document that actually states the obligations of the members of corporate bodies, and it says that the members are or know what obligations they have according to Czech law, what is expected from them, and it also states that, or it is then signed by the members of these corporate bodies, and it states that the future members know that they did fulfill all the obligations that the Czech law gives to them in order to be members of corporate bodies. In case it might be necessary, depending on how you wish to establish your company, you would need a power of attorney, because, as I said before, it is fairly easy and very common for us to establish the company for our client on our own. So, in other words, you would not have to be physically present, and it would be able to process all these steps thanks to a power of attorney granted to a third person that obviously might or might not have to be an attorney. It's of course better because you would grant the power of attorney to an expert that actually does this on a daily basis, but it is possible to grant the power of attorney to anyone. Now, in case the shareholder of the Czech company will be a foreign company, an example, a new shareholder of a newly formed Czech company will be a Peruvian company, it is also necessary to obtain an extract from a public register from, in this case, Peru. As far as people are concerned, people that would be members of the corporate bodies, it is important to have a criminal record certificate so that this proves a clean criminal record of this person. And as far as any documentation that is issued in a foreign language, it is basically always required to be super legalized or apostilled, depending on the agreement that the two countries have. Now, these are the basic documents and the basic steps that you need to have or to obtain when setting up a company. But once you set up a company, it's not all done yet, unfortunately. But the last step is the easiest one, which is the registration of the company. In the Czech Republic, we have so-called commercial register that are kept by relevant courts, depending on the district. And to register a company in the Czech Republic, you have basically two options to do so. You can register them in the in the relevant court, or you can register the company also through the notary. And as we said before, regarding a memorandum of association, this is a document that has to be prepared in the form of a notarial deed. What we usually do is after we sign the memorandum of association, we also ask the notary to register the company directly, which for you is cheaper and it's faster. So these are the two options that we have, and we would always try to make it quicker and cheaper by using the notary. Now, as a foreigner or as a foreign company, you can open a bank account in the Czech Republic in general with restrictions that might come from the banks themselves, but in general, there's no restriction whatsoever for foreigners to open a bank account. As I said, each bank obviously has its own terms and conditions, but usually it is enough to submit a residence permit, a valid passport, and normally they require another identity document. To finish off with the corporate part, I think it's important to know that there is one other option how to do business in the Czech Republic besides setting up a company, that is setting up a branch in the Czech Republic. Legal entity can also perform its business in the Czech Republic through a so-called branch, which is merely an organizational unit of the founding company. In other words, it does not have its own legal capacity. So it is a part of the foreign company here in the Czech Republic. How can we set such brand up? It's not very difficult. It's a lot easier than setting up a company, as we said before. In the first place, it is necessary to adopt a resolution on the establishment of a branch and to appoint a director of the branch that has to be a natural person, that cannot be a company. Now, it is also necessary to obtain a business license. The business license is, as we talked before, a necessary step to register for a certain type of business activity that you will perform. That takes days, and the branch registers for this at the trade license office. The costs are more or less 40 euros, so it's fairly easy. You also, in order to establish a branch, have to obtain other relevant documentation, which is, as we talked before, for example, an extract from the public register, a declaration on the clean criminal record of the director of the branch, a fair title to use the premises as the seat of the branch, etc. And last but least, you have to register the branch, as we talked about registration of the companies in the commercial register. Now, as far as branch is concerned, why would I recommend to go with this type of doing business here in the Czech Republic? Well, there are few advantages. That first of all would be that there's no obligatory registered capital, and also it might be easier for you coming from a foreign country that the applicable law is the law of the parent company. I'm talking about within the branch, not outside of the branch. In other words, the law of a parent company is applicable to the internal dealings of the branch. The downside, the disadvantages are that the parent company is fully responsible for the activities of the branch. That, of course, in a case of a limited liability company, where the parent company is the only shareholder, might actually come to the same conclusion. In other words, if you have a limited liability company where the parent company is the sole shareholder of the limited liability company, it is also to a certain extent responsible for the activities of the company. Also the director of the branch must be either a Czech resident or a foreigner with Czech residency permit. It is also, I would say, difficult to say if this is a disadvantage or not, but it is, of course, an information to be noted. With the short explanation of setting up a branch, I would finish with the corporate part of my speech, and I would move to the labor law, because I think the labor law is something that you might find different to the law of your countries, because first of all, I think that the European principles are a little bit specific as far as labor law is concerned, because the fundamental principles of the Czech labor law and Czech labor relations are particularly legal protection of an employee, satisfactory and safe working conditions, fair salary, equal treatment, and prohibition of discrimination. The employee protection is based mainly on international standards by which the Czech Republic is bound. Even though it is allowed to regulate rights and duties of parties in the employment contract differently, that it is set in the labor code. However, these deviations may be arranged only in the favor of the employee. Basically, the provisions of the labor code, that is the main act, the main law that regulates the labor relations, are generally applicable on all employment relations. Nevertheless, employment relations of certain groups of employees are subject to special legislation. But these apply to, for example, judges, administrative authorities, and others. Now, an employee in the Czech Republic can work for an employer either based on an employment contract or based on agreements on work performed outside an employment relationship. These are so-called work performance agreements. It is an agreement to complete a job, an agreement to perform work.
So if I can ask, Lukáš, I mean, what's the position of the employer and employee in the Czech law? I mean, if I were a foreign company establishing a branch or a company and I would like to hire someone, what does it mean? What kind of obligations? I mean, how is it reflected in the law? Because
Sure.
as you said, it's different. It might be very different from Latin American countries.
Sure, thank you. I think that the main difference, or the main, I would say, specific, because I would like to talk about Latin American legal systems, is that there's big protection of the employee. There always has been very high protection of the employee, and it goes from the very beginning of the relationship until its end. I'll give you a couple of examples. The employment contract must be executed in writing and must include, for example, the type of work for the employee. It must include the place of work and the date of commencement. It also has to include information about the rights and obligations of the employee and the employment conditions. The specific thing about the employment contract and employment relationship as such is that once an employment contract is signed, it cannot be changed without an expressed consent from the employee. So, in other words, the employer cannot worsen the conditions of the employee on their own, cannot actually decide on such. Other specific principle is fair salary. That what do we mean by fair salary? This is something that might sound quite vague, but in fact, it is something that means that the person performing a specific job has to have the same or similar salary to another person that has the same job position. The same applies to prohibition of discrimination. It, of course, is a general principle of law in the Czech Republic, but it is especially stressed in labor relations that it is prohibited, it is impossible to discriminate against someone because of gender, because of religion, because of the color of their skin, ethnicity, and other important factors. I think that this is something that employers coming to the Czech Republic from abroad have to take into account and have to have in mind that this is something that is extremely stressed by the principles of Czech law. Also, in case there is a dispute between employers and employees, in general, the courts tend to be very pro-employee. In other words, they tend to help the employees because they consider them, and they are obviously, a weaker side of the dispute. So I think that it is very important to take into account that once you start a company in the Czech Republic, or once you start doing a business in the Czech Republic, it's always important to note that the weaker side is always a lot more protected. And in labor law, this is stressed even more. Now, as far as the employment relationship is concerned, and I'll show you there why the employee's position is very, I would say, or quite strong. I said that the contract as such has to be in writing, and here I'll show you just a small example how come that the employees are so protected. There's an obligation to have the contract in writing. However, if it's an oral contract, then it can never be used against the employee. It's always, if I can simplify it, it's always a problem of the employer. I'll show you then in the termination of employment relationship how strong can the position of employee be. Now, I've talked about the mandatory contract already. There is a type of work, place of work, and date of commencement of employment that talk about what has to be included in an employment contract according to Czech law. you can be employed for a period that is either definite or indefinite. When employing someone on a definite period, it is important to note that you can do this only twice. For the third time, if you do the same thing, then the contract will be considered or that it was concluded for an indefinite period of time. In other words, I will enter into an employment contract with someone for a year, then I'll renew them again for another year. And once I renew them for the third time, the contract will not be definite anymore, even though the contract will say such thing, but it will be considered indefinite. Another way how we can see that the employee is protected by Czech law. It is possible to expressly state a so-called trial period that can be not longer than 3 or 6 months. What is so-called trial period? Well, it is a way how an employee and an employer can get to know each other, and it is a certain protection. Here, this is more from the point of view of the employer, that in case they're not happy with the employee in the first 3 months of the employment relations, he or the employer can actually terminate the relationship with no notification and for no reason whatsoever. This, however, can be done also from the part of the employee. When you can see in the presentation that it says no longer than 3 to 6 months. 3 months is a trial period. It is a maximum for normal basic employees. And 6 months is a specific trial period that is used, or that can be used for employees that are on the leading position. In other words, that have people working for them. According to Czech law, the length of standard weekly working hours is 40 hours per week. Now, termination.
I'm sorry, Lukáš, just for the sake of time, just to warn you that you have like the last 10, 13 minutes. So just to make sure that we got to the IP issue, because some of the startups have been asking me by email. So just that's a time reminder. Thank you.
Into account. As far as termination of the employment relationship, there are various ways how to do so. Again, what I wanted to stress when talking before about the position of the employee is that when you terminate the employment relationship from the point of view, or from the part of the employer, you cannot do that only because you would like to do such thing, but it has to be based on reasons that are stipulated in the labor code. Now, the other options of termination are, I think, basic to the other legal systems too. I'll try to move a little bit faster here so that in case that you have questions, please ask. In case not, I would like to read through very quickly this part so that we can talk about intellectual property. Now, agreements on work is something that is normally used with people that are not employed on their 40 hours per week. However, they would work for a shorter period of time. Normally, this would not establish full-time working relationship. There are two types to do so. Depending on the number of hours that you need that these employees work. Now, as far as basic obligations of the employer are concerned, I think that we covered it in the beginning, because I said that there are a lot of obligations that do protect in the end the employee. Among among the most important ones, I would say that these are that they have to create good conditions for the performance of work tasks and ensure safety, and respect the minimum wage and guaranteed wage, where minimum wage is the minimum wage you can actually give to any employee, and a guaranteed wage is a mechanism that ensures that people who are qualified to do more qualified work or jobs will be guaranteed even higher than the minimum wage according to the standard of their qualification. In other words, you can never pay an IT expert minimum wage, but it will have to be a so-called guaranteed wage that is, of course, higher. The employer obviously has to comply with the basic obligations stipulated by law and pay health insurance and social security insurance contributions and other statutory payments. Very quickly about employments of foreigners. It is, of course, possible and not extremely difficult to employ foreigners in the Czech Republic. It is an obligation of the employer to notify the labor office of the vacancy in the company. And the biggest, I would say, administrative problem is that a foreigner that does not hold valid mandatory permits cannot be employed. Then the basic obligation of the company, of the employer, is to notify the labor office. Now, I will move now to a brief overview of intellectual property. And I'll divide the intellectual property into two parts. First, it is copyright, and second, it is industrial property law. Now, these are two types of intellectual property that here in the Czech Republic are protected. What is the basic difference? Well, copyright is, it includes literary work, another work of art, and a work of science. If we talk about examples, it can be a theatrical play, it can be cartographic, so map, audiovisual, so film, computer program, that's self-explanatory. When we talk about copyright in Czech law, it is important to know that, first of all, the author of the copyright has exclusive personal rights, in other words, right to authorship, and property rights, consisting of the right to use such work and to grant authorization to another by contract, in other words, by license. Now, does the author have to register his work? Well, this is quite easy about copyright. No, the legal regulation is very simple. Copyright arises from the moment the work has been expressed in an objectively perceivable form. Therefore, you don't have to submit any registration. The author and its work, it's under legal protection from the very beginning. Now, I think that this is very important to see and to distinguish between copyright and industrial property law, because as far as industrial property law is concerned, we're talking about rights that have to be registered and that have to be protected at an authority that in the Czech Republic is called the Industrial Property Office. And also, of course, there can be either European or international protection. Industrial property rights then. Well, unlike a copyright, you're not directly protected by law. You have to submit an application to the Industrial Property Office. And the protection of the industrial property rights arises by entry in the register that is maintained by the Industrial Property Office. And the protection is usually for a certain period that can be obviously renewed. Now, as far as industrial property rights are concerned, we have the following options in the Czech law: the trademark, invention, utility model, industrial design, geographical indications and appellations of origin, and topography of a semiconductor product. Now, to make this a little bit more edible, is it difficult to register a trademark or invention? Well, actually, the process in Czech law is quite simple. You apply for the registration by filling in a formula, and pay an administrative fee that, in general, as far as industrial property rights and, for example, trademark is concerned, is 5,000 Czech crowns, which equals to roughly 200 euros. The Industrial Property Office then makes the application public. And after that, there is a so-called opposition period that is running that usually lasts 60 days. And in other words, someone can actually oppose the registration of such trademark. If everything is okay, then the Industrial Property Office registers your trademark. In case of disputes from IP law, it is again the Industrial Property Office that in the first place deals with any sort of disputes regarding intellectual property. However, as I said before, you can also decide here in the Czech Republic for European or international protection. For example, it is possible to register a trademark in the register of EU trademarks by application to the EU Intellectual Property Office, or also alternatively in the register at the International Intellectual Property Office.
Lukáš, I'm sorry, you just have like the last minute too, because there are questions also for you. So if we want to finish by 6, yeah, there's not much time left. So just actually, warning.
There's not much left to say, which is a good piece of news. Now, as far as the registration is concerned, this is all obviously forms part of the presentation here. It is easy to register. However, you have to keep in mind that copyright is something that you do not have to protect otherwise than basically by creating the work. Industrial property right is something that you do have to protect. I'll finish off with a very brief overview of the taxation system, which lists you various types of taxation in the Czech Republic. And I would point out 2 things, and then I'll finish off. One of them is, please, when you deal with taxes and the taxation system in the Czech Republic, I'm saying this as an attorney, do use advice from people that are actually dealing with taxes, international taxation, and corporate taxes. I always find it beneficial when clients use someone who actually can help them to get good insight into the taxation system of the Czech Republic. The second thing that I would like to mention is that the taxation system in the Czech Republic is ever changing, so you can never actually know what to expect. How can that be changed in the next few months? However, in general, the taxation, when compared to other countries, is not very low. So I would not consider it high, but I would not consider it very, very low. The taxation system is quite complex, quite difficult. And of course, as far as direct and indirect taxes are concerned, I think that we have all basic taxation options that are used in your countries too. So there would not be anything else to focus on. You would probably have to get used to a specific system. But in general, I would say that the legal and the taxation system in the Czech Republic is quite favorable. the taxation system might be a little bit more difficult, but the legal system is favorable for flexible setting up and also the termination of doing business here in the Czech Republic. I do have experience with quite a lot of companies from abroad because they form quite a big chunk of our clients that come to the Czech Republic, and as far as the legal point of view, are very happy with how easy and flexible the options that the Czech law gives them is. I'm sorry that it took so long. I hope that it
complex. I understand.
I know that law is probably not the most entertaining part of the day for you today, but please do know that anything that you'd like to expand on, I'm available now for questions, or then at any point, if you want to get in touch with me, just please do so. I think that there's quite a lot to cover, so I try to do it sort of hopping from here to there,
yeah.
So that we can, so you can get basic overview of all 4 parts that I try to cover here. Yeah, I'm happy to answer questions.
Thank you, Lukáš. I think it wasn't an easy task. I mean, to do such a brief overview of such a big topic, and I know that there are still plenty of things on your plate. But I would like to ask Jan, our colleague. There are some questions maybe to Lukáš I have seen. Could you just read them or summarize them, please?
Yes, definitely, Adriana. So there is one, which is the local office where the business should be registered in Czech Republic?
Thank you. Well, the business should be registered where the seat of the company will be. In the beginning, this actually goes back to the corporate part of the presentation, where you have to obtain 2 licenses. The first one is the trade license, which you will obtain at the local authority of the trade licensing, which is, for example, Prague for these purposes is divided into 10 districts. And you actually obtain and request the license at the place where you will be establishing the company. And then as far as registering the business, that I think was the main part of the question. This will take place in the commercial register that will be done either by the notary when setting up the company. So once you visit the notary and you go through all the steps that are necessary for the foundation, the notary himself or herself will actually register the company within the commercial register, or the other option is to register it at the relevant court. That is a little bit more costly, and it takes a little bit more time. Just to give you a rough idea, when the notary does it, then it's basically an electronic step. So once they do it, it takes roughly hours when it's made public. When you do it at the court, they have a statutory period of 5 days to register this. In other words, I would say it's 5 times as longer, and as it is more costly, I wouldn't probably recommend this. Also, this question comes to it comes to my mind that regarding commercial register, I'm not sure if I explained it in detail when I talked about it, but it is an electronic register that is accessible to everyone online. Free of charge. This is something that I know that, for example, other countries, also in Europe, but also in other continents, do not have that. Once, for example, the commercial register is public, it's not free to access all information. But here in the Czech Republic, it is very easy to check on a company and on actually who is, for example, the executive director of the company, where is the seat of the company, and on its corporate history. So this is something that I think is very well done in the Czech Republic, very easy. And when I talked about, for example, the fact that the name of the company has to be unique and cannot copy a company that already exists, this is something that you also can get to know from the corporate register. It is fairly easy to access all this information online. The downside is that, as far as I'm aware, the English version is not very good. So unfortunately, you would have to get into the beauties of the Czech language to be able to use the Czech Commercial Register well. You can use it in English also, but I know that it has certain drawbacks. And let me use this opportunity to say that I do recommend you come to the Czech Republic to do business. I'm not sure if I recommend you to come to the Czech Republic to learn Czech. Please consider this before actually starting to do so.
But Lukáš, you have already explained how to hire local people, so I think everything will be fine.
Okay, yeah, that's true.
I mean, we have fixed everything during this webinar, I hope. Is there any other question, Jan, please?
Yes, there is one more. If you can, summarize all the steps that already were mentioned, which one is the one that lasts 3 to 4 days? Because the entity asking is they don't think that you can actually do all of these in the short amount of time.
Thank you. Just to sum it up so that I understand the question. The question is, which steps out of these?
Out of all, in general, take more than a couple of days.
When setting up the company, right?
I believe that's correct. If
yes.
SIC can clarify.
Well, I think that in general, the most time consuming is to get the documents. In other words, for example, there's a company in Mexico that would like to set up a company here in the Czech Republic and would need an extract from the criminal records from the corporate register from Mexico, actually translated, super legalized or apostilled and posted here to the Czech Republic. That is something that takes a lot of time. Once we have all these documents, I think that probably the most, or I would say the most time-consuming part would be setting up a bank account for an entity that might take, I would say, a couple of days also, maximum. It depends on the bank, obviously. As far as the memorandum of association, the fair title to use the premises, that's all documentation that can be prepared or pre-prepared by ourselves or by other attorneys in advance. So I can't do it, and then basically meeting with the notary and meeting all the shareholders together, or actually appointing someone to do it on their behalf. So I think that the most time-consuming is to get all the documentation here. Then it will be more or less the same. The trade license is also a question of a day, 2, 3 maximum. So yeah, among these, I wouldn't really say that one of them is more time-consuming than the other.
Thank you, Lukáš. I think, we will share also your presentation. There are your contact details by the end of the presentation, if I'm not mistaken. So for those who have further questions, you can contact the legal services directly and ask for more details. So thank you very much, Lukáš. And if there are not more questions, Jan, and I don't see them,
we are all exhausted and done regarding.
Let me wrap up. Thank you very much, Lukáš. It was a tremendous webinar. Just let me walk you very briefly through some of the highlights we had. We've heard the Deputy Minister of the Ministry of Industry, Martina Tauberová, showing us that COVID has forced us to look for innovation, partnership, and new diversity. She said better together. I think that's exactly right. We had also Nicola Rafaj from StartupYard, present in 15 markets, that was warning you that doing business in Czech Republic is hard, but you will love it. and reminding us not to forget that Czechs have golden hands also in IT or cybersecurity. And this is a region with a lot of experts in those sectors. Michal Veselý from the SouthMoravian Innovation Center, I think you will keep in your mind that there is a city called Brno. It's in the center of the universe. No, really, it's a mecca of nanomaterials, and there is quite a lot of ambition, but they have proved that they can help startups to make dreams come true. With Carlos Granja, he showed us how an open mind and sense of for need and opportunity can get us from space to technology. And with Václav Kožený, we visited IoT, also had a sense of doing business in Latin America, in Venezuela, in Mexico. And he also highlighted the Czech Republic is near to Germany, but also to Eastern markets like Russia, which is important. Anna Hyde from CzechInvest explained how CzechInvest can support you and how you can obtain Czech visa to come to do business in the Czech Republic. And with Jaroslav Trojan from Nation One, you discovered who's a typical and non-typical angel and what should you do if you want to get some venture capital here in the Czech Republic. And finally, we also got the legal side of our businesses with Lukáš Vajda from Sniehotta and Vajda Legal Services. And I hope this will really help you to set up the company here and protect your IP. So in brief, the first day is over. I hope it was useful for you. Let us have a very what's ahead of us tomorrow. But before that, I would like to warn those ones who are not going to follow us tomorrow that you will receive a follow-up email soon with all the links to the video and presentations, and also with a feedback questionnaire. Please fill it up, so we know what are you interested in and how can we help you next time. However, if you are still available tomorrow, we would like to invite you to those sessions, and we will have 4 of them: FinTech, InsurTech, Smart City Mobility Logistics, Sustainable Agriculture, and Social and Human Tech, very much about impact, I think, there. So if you are still available, or you think that your colleagues in the institution you are at the university, whatever, might be interested, please write to the person who has sent you the reminder, and we can send you all the links so you can, as an observer, participate as well tomorrow. So this was in brief what's ahead of us tomorrow. From me, Adriana Dergam, and the organizers, the Ministry of Industry and Trade, CzechInvest, the Embassy of Argentina, our honorary consulate of Uruguay in Prague. Thank you to all participants, of course, to all speakers. Keep in touch, please. Feel free to contact us or the speakers if you have an interesting topic or suggestion or cooperation to start with us. You know, and this is something set and outlined and stressed, I think, by other presenters as well. But Ms. Tauberová said we are really open to new cooperation, new partnerships between the Czech Republic and Latin America. So stay well, and we hope to see most of you tomorrow at the sectorial meetings. Bye-bye. Thank you.